10th May 2022. Literary 8 p.m. in locale. Literary study and analysis of Dante's Inferno. Canto 1, page 37 of text. Stanzas 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Okay. So did my soul that was still was fleeing onward, turn itself back to behold the past, which never yet the living person left. Where her body had rested, the way resumed high on the desert slope, and at the firm foot of the hills. Her soul still was fleeing onward. Continuing onward from the experience described of coming to a place of development, of new development, as referenced in the prior stanza. And the notice of contrast between the minds tend to see, experience further calm in retrospect, to focus on the venuing, focus on aspect of a challenge, or the aspect of the journey had been greatly shaping or more greatly affecting, or more greatly influential, more greatly imparting. So rather to note that the gentle carry itself be gentle waters themselves, or quieter moments in a journey in themselves be greatly affecting. But imparting implies a level of more direct activity, or effective activity on the part, or in regard to the aspect of the journey discussed. In a place of calm, rocky stand on shore. Peace was recollecting, relishing gaze, collecting its song or relishing gaze. Writer themselves, the narrator themselves would be described with the line, "So did my soul." He's analogizing. He's directly stating a comparison of himself to water, and then to the description prior, and then he's noting the simultaneous experience of having mind look toward horizon, mind look an aspect of water turbulent, and mind look an aspect from standing on shore and casting forth further inland. Specifically, the far off distance come, and the horizon being symbolic of the overall journey. The turbulent water being directly stated as poignant for description, and the inland shore yet awaiting, inland of shore yet awaiting, that eagerly, that the soul, even in its nostalgia, eagerly carries to, the mind eagerly carries to. And all of them are likened in that sense of the fleeing onward, meaning once upon shore, the awareness of the gaze on water. Inland is a journey this is simply the beginning of a new horizon. Turn itself back to behold the past. Simultaneously a notent of a recollection, and an indication of irrelevance, that the shore, the quiet moment of gaze of a first gaze from a shore, simply a beginning of a field on foot, of step of sea into sea lichen. And he also seems to be narrator also seems to be analogizing really. The essence of moments in life. As but gazes on shore while simultaneously in water. Let us more clearly state. The writer seems to be making a point to describe the moments in life as in themselves almost transient states through which there is constant seeking and being forth called, yet placed and present. It's a glimpse of past, a glimpse of past to present a future. Such is the it states it in such a way that is intended on reminding of the nature of presence itself, as well as warning on listenings of past to intently noting of the comfort and joy in the moments of gaze, moments of peaceful gaze, challenging them, challenging to gaze beyond the challenging, to continue onward inland, and leave gaze in moment, while holding a moment's gaze at heart. And recall and using that challenge unstatedly more subtextually, whereas to rather gently nudge onto future by noting the tendant of ever living person being left with the tendant to noting of attendant to view presence as non-transience, and to elaborate to view presence as a state of static, or a state of naturalistic, unefforted existential developmental consolidation. Yet rather, it is always a fluid state of changing activity. Fluid state of changing activity. Whilst caution of attendance, whilst noting of attendance and presence, while noting of the attendance and presence, and the relevance in presence of seeing presence as a consolidating, as a fixed state, but also reminding of its duality towards its irreducible duality to perpetual transience. Yet almost redefining an idea of rest, in that it's almost implicit with that context. It's almost implicit that there's the suggestibility that rest is within presence, Rest is a thing within presence, to be seen as of an aspect of perspective on one's present, perspective on one's moments. As fluid and cyclic on cycle of action in quiet. And the action is, and the rest should then suggestibility being that rest should be found in the duality between action and quiet, rather than in quiet itself. Or the interplay between action and quiet. Yeah, that's the one. Great. "22 minutes, one stanza." Next line mentions interesting. I didn't note it. I didn't read it. Okay. After my weary body I had rested, we resumed I on the desert slope, so that firm foot ever was the lower, which is firm foot. Firm foot is rest. The firm foot is a tendency to seek and recollect of past. Yet he describes it as foot to note the efficacy of the placement of one's action within and through more restly states onto toward action, or the availance of leaving a recollection amidst, leaving a relishing amidst the actionings, or the tendon for that to be, or the beneficence for that to be the case, or the benefit for that to be the case, in perspective. And lo, almost where the ascent began, panther light and swift exceedingly, which with a spotted skin was covered o'er, and in citation. The word of invocation. Invocation. The invocation of the word rest. Bring it of quiet. Bring it of the quiet hallow, and callings of the peace of nature. To seek of time in dual, to seek of time in past, to seek of quiet, ever racing by. the racing through, the unacted, the arrested, never being of arrestment with through, arrestment, arrestment. The truth explosive skin is covered all. Also noting Panda as a representation of nature and the overarching presence of presence of perpetuating challenge, existence onto action, and nature emerging counter, as well as simultaneously discussing rest, both of which intrinsically interplaying, both understandings intrinsically interplaying and interparting. One transmuter propagative statement. Not transmuter propagative. Not transmuter propagative. One interpotential statement. No. Interpotentiating statement. Interpotentiating statement. Yeah. Spotted skin is covered all. Concealment and the beautifying and simultaneously acting as a notance of the aspects of the, simultaneously acting as commentary on the dual-parted perspective of the statement, as well as speaking to a direct commentary on the existential nature of the conceptual relation there is. In spotted spots. As well, more literally. That's why he went Panther. And also to note the Panther being a poignant example. Response is more of a side note, a further notance down the line of analysis, more so relevance of commentary. It's probably highly revealing. I think it's highly revealing, and also still relevance of commentary, notance of the likened to the spots, the pointed consolidating nature would be likenable interpotentially. Meaning you give two perspectives. Either I would describe the spot simply used in this context to speak in notance and acknowledgement and appraisal onto the valuation of perspective of both relevant primary component understandings and interpretations of the text of stanzas of the past four stanzas, the notance of the perpetuality of perspective once the liberating understanding of both component aspects of a single set description, and that aspect, that interpotentiality of descriptive nature being a thing that had been perpetually affecting, as well as speaking directly to an acknowledgement of oldenness to pass, whereas the anta can be taken as symbolic of the encroaching or the constant presence of times passing, and the input and the as well as the reduction or a lack of adherence to, or lack of engagement with impetus to act within, to be an enacting or active within time, as well as again noting the elegance and simplicity and stark, and also ties in with rest as well, because it's the idea of rest as it might play on the mind in both ways, in the majesty of nature as emphasized by the anta, with the beautifying and descriptive, or the increasing descriptive, and its presence with its varied component, with dualistic nature being directly referenced. The word I would use is interpotentiality. The interpotentiality of it, because it's both simultaneously carrying, because of how closely the two understandings are interwoven into each other with use of the singular analogy, and they're given interplay, as also described in the description of the following line. Indication of interpotentiality. Notance. Indication, qualification of aspect, indication of interpotentiality, and componentiation. Recognition of valuation of perspective. Rather, it is revealed of interpotentiality. Reintroduction to a sublime, or introduction or invocation of aspect of higher perspective to nature. Appraisal of interpotentiality, and subtexted appraisal of interpotentiality, and then confirmation of subtexted appraisal instead of qualification, notance, qualification, dualistic indication, and then verification. So it's I interpret it as componentiation, confirmation, unstated appraisal, unstated subtexted confirmation, and then an appraisal for both. Rather did impede so much my way. Well, that's a poignant note for our first introduction for hidden context, because it's relevant. It's immediately relevant to note it's immediately relevant to state a confirmation of concealment, to state a confirmation that there was a concealment used, as well as to describe the aspect of dualism, the aspect of perceived dualism that may be interpreted from prior as opposed to an aspect of interpotentialism. And with the interpotentialism then flipping this line, let's say in the suggested meaning, being more it's somberly noting, it's reminding of, it's directly simply reminding of, it's directly simply reminding of the complexity of the analogy and the layered aspect of its interpretation, the qualification of thought that would have to go into conveyance of effective interpretation. Even perpetual acknowledgement of lack of mastery, of course, as well as simultaneous notions of appreciation. If one would have recognized from the prior line, as if this had been the reinstigate, if this one had been, if it had been confirmation of duality, a confirmation of duality, confirmation of interpotentiality. Componentiated interpotentiality confirmation. If the dualistic componentiation with interpotential understanding had been recognized here, one would be able to then take this line as meaning as the confirmation of that carried intended message. This line as the appraisal, with this one being more concealed or subverted, allows fluid flow transition of the other two component on this, of the two componentiating aspects, and two main componentiating aspects. Notance of the basing of perspective, basing of perspective after it, and if noted at this been appraisal, many times I had returned, it can be seen as simultaneously, it can more easily be seen as simultaneously a recognition of imperfection and a cherishing of an appraise and a second appraisement, a second appraising of the aspect of nature and complexity that therein lie in such descriptive technique, or perceived commentary on the multiplicitous aspects or the variated aspect of human understanding to each relevant part. And simultaneously acting as a call to mastery. The time was the beginning of the morning. Call to master before the next line. Time was the beginning of the morning. And up the sun was mounting with those stars. just kind of take those literally now. Yeah, they're very metaphoric. Commentary's already there. Requiem had. First Requiem had. This is not the Requiem. Time was the beginning of the morning. Time was the beginning of the morning. A sighting of the complexity, a noting, a light illuminant on the casting, convey of the casting, concealed in dark and light text. Dark and bright text, light to illuminate, light to speak forth on the peaceful next line. For this is first conclusion of an opening state. This then acts as conclusive of opening phrase, of opening note of speech, or the opening act of the canto. And that the sun was molten with those stars, and a further call to understand that this alone is not conclusive of the first act of canto, rather an initiation of the larger first canto that is representative of the grander aspect task of gaining channeling a larger perspective when viewing such aspects of life where perspective may yet be limited and conceptualization to which more challenge is to be had, and challenge itself in nature and nature in growth, as it would further note with continuance. To the fourth step, and step to higher, this perspective analogizing that would have to be had to carry on in an opening chapter beyond an illuminating light to a light embracing. A celebration and a reminder of aspect larger. think it reminds me of the two amen. When people say amen twice, say amen, amen. 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 But more slowly. Uplift and a gentle return to more active, more active median state than a state of quiet rest, a state of yet dualistic, yet paired together, so to allow for those who would tend, allow for more comfort of those who tend towards the high activity state, and those who would tend to prefer more rested state, whereas the median exists between the two. Without having the beam directing towards toward the median. Inferno, 10th May 2022, 8:42 p.m. Canto 1, stanzas 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Recording 1.